I'd like to congratulate everyone for sitting here for an hour and a half. Thank you. It's been a long hour and a half, but filled with some very interesting information. We have two speakers left. Our next speaker is David Chan, who was the individual that did the first video. David and his wife Julie have been members of FEAT for over 10 years. He's a long-standing member of the board of the Autism Society of British Columbia. He's a photographer, and he was the photographer and the executive producer for the opening DVD, Medicare for Autism Now. He and Julia were both Autism and HUCO litigants. Their contribution and work on behalf of all our children is enormous and is greatly appreciated. They have two children, one of whom is autistic. Ladies and gentlemen, David Chan.
Never tip the waiter before the meal. When Jean asked me to speak to you guys today, I did a lot of thinking, and I thought that ultimately I think what I wanted to talk to everybody about is what it is to be a Canadian. Now, I didn't choose to be a Canadian. My parents thought, through a lot of introspection and decided that Canada, with its comprehensive healthcare system and public education system, would be a great place to raise their young family. So in 1972, our family moved from Hong Kong to Vancouver, and we've been here ever since. Now, our family embraced all the values, that were good in Canadian life. Now, not long after we arrived, I developed a medical condition in my left leg that required immediate and emergency surgery. With the help of a skilled surgeon and the Medicare system, I have a leg to stand on today. What a great country. I mean, this is just, where else could that happen? Now, I may have adopted this country, but my son is a Canadian through and through, with a maternal grandfather that fought in Korea for the Canadian Army, and a maternal great-grandfather that was a member of Parliament that adopted the British North America Act in 1867. His Canadian heritage is sterling. Now, he was diagnosed with autism at the age of 4.5. We were devastated. Can you imagine? A firstborn son in a Chinese family that's not going to become a doctor, a lawyer, a rocket scientist? Heck, there was doubt that he was ever going to speak or go to school. The devastation was nothing short of nuclear. And at this point, I'd like to publicly thank my wife, Julia. She, on no uncertain term, saved all of us. We had cried a lot, and I said, well, what do we do for him? And frankly, I was lost. I was gonna basically go with the flow and go with whatever options there were on offer that would be probably good enough. And my wife decided that hapless choosing and choosing randomly was just not an option. So she went to an ABA workshop sponsored by FEAT at UBC, and we've embarked on this therapeutic journey with our son, and we've never looked back. Now, going back to being Canadian, one of the proudest days of my life was a summer day about 4 years ago in the chambers of the Supreme Court of Canada. I'm sitting there fighting for the rights of all Canadian children with autism to get science-based ABA therapy. What a great country. Where else in the whole world can an immigrant son from a working-class family have the opportunity to affect the lives of so many of his fellow citizens in such a profound way? I was just brimming. But unfortunately, the pride in my country was short-lived. When the jurists on the Supreme Court abrogated their responsibility to save disabled Canadian children by basically abandoning them and leaving them and their parents to fend for themselves with their provincial governments, I was astonished. I was gobsmacked. I couldn't believe it. So Having been enrolled in the Canadian public school system, I was taught that Canada was a compassionate nation and that we, the citizenry, have a responsibility to care for the people among us that are least able to care for themselves. And in fact, universal Medicare was one of the core values of being a Canadian. I mean, these core values are precisely the reasons that my parents came to this country in the first place. After the Supreme Court decision, all I could feel was embarrassment. Not even embarrassment, it was like shame. I thought that we were a better country than that. That said, Canadian citizens must not be abandoned. We must follow the directions of the Supreme Court and place the medical treatment of autism in the political arena. 各位朋友，今日我哋聚會嘅目的係要我哋大家明白，自閉症係唔分種族、唔分經濟背景。FEAT 嘅要求係每一個患上自閉症嘅加拿大人，不分國籍、年紀、文化背景，都可以得到由聯邦政府提供嘅必須ABA 治療程序。My fellow Canadians, sound like a politician, come on. My fellow Canadians, this is an opportunity to restore pride in our country and the values that we aspire to. We can do this by changing the Canada Health Act to include the treatment of autism in the Medicare system. Canada, do us proud, right? We need Medicare for autism now. Thank you.